Once upon a time, on the edge of the deep woods, lived a young lady who always wore a hood of scarlet. Because of this, she was called Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother, who was an herbalist, decided to move deeper into the woods to get at the potent ingredients that grew there, but did not want to subject her daughter to the grave dangers that lurked in the shadows. So she left Red Riding Hood with her uncle. But the Hood's uncle was a stern man and put Red Riding Hood in a corset made of iron, saying she would only be allowed to visit her mother when she was big and strong enough so that the corset would fall off of her. She hated it and smashed it with her bare fists every night in hopes that it would break free so she could go see her mother. One day, many weeks later, the corset finally broke, and so her uncle let her go. But he gave her strict instructions to stay on the path, and that she should take the way of the needle at the fork in the road and stay clear of the way of the nail. She agreed at once and set off on her journey. A hunter who knew the dangers of the wood saw Red Riding Hood go in and decided to follow her unseen, if only to make sure no harm befell the girl. At the fork in the road where the ways of the needle and the nail began, a wolf appeared before Red Riding Hood. He was sly and asked the girl where she might be going on such a pretty day. Hood was nervous, but polite, and answered that she was on her way to her mother's house by the lake. The wolf told her that he knew both ways well, and suggested that Hood might get there faster if she went by the way of the nail. Red Riding Hood was doubtful of the wolf, but took the advice anyway, for who would know the woods better than a wolf? But as she went down the path, the wolf grinned and made haste down the quicker way, the way of the needle, to get to the lake and the house of Hood's mother first. But it happened that the hunter had been nearby in the bushes and heard everything. He of course saw through the wolf's plan and decided to follow the wolf. But wolves are harder to fool than little girls when it comes to being followed unseen, and this wolf would have no one meddle with his plans for a meal. So he turned and confronted the hunter, and a fierce battle began between the two. Both were strong and equally fierce, but in the end the wolf was faster. He managed to break into the woods and escape the hunter, who was now off the path and lost in the forests. Unhindered, the wolf made it to the lake and killed Hood's mother in her own home, just as Red Riding Hood made her way out of the way of the nail. Thinking fast, the wolf cleaned up as fast as he could and dressed himself in one of the mother's nightgowns. He finished his disguise just as Hood knocked on the door 3 times. With a cloyingly sweet voice, he told her to come in. Red Riding Hood was hungry from her long walk through the woods, so she asked her mother for something to eat. The wolf told her that there was food and drink for her on the kitchen table, and so she went to eat. But just as she started eating a piece of meat, a bird, who had seen all, flew upon the windowsill and told her that she was eating her mother's flesh. Red Riding Hood looked at the wolf and said, "Mother, there's a bird that says I'm eating your flesh." The wolf said, "Throw a hat to that nasty bird. He tells you lies." But the bird had already flown off. Red Riding Hood then took a big drink from a glass of wine. She almost emptied it when a cat, who also saw it all, told her not to be foolish. She was drinking her own mother's blood. This unnerved Hood, who told the wolf, "Mother, your cat told me I was drinking your blood." The wolf said, Toss assured that cat, he is good for nothing. But by then the cat had left the house to look for another home, and so Red Riding Hood finished the rest of her meal undisturbed. Now, the food and drink had made Hood sleepy, and the wolf suggested that perhaps she should go to sleep. So Red Riding Hood undressed and made ready for bed, but she noticed the wolf standing near her, looking at her with hungry eyes. Only then did she start to notice queer things about her mother. "Mother, look how big your ears are," she said. And the wolf answered, "Without them, I couldn't hear your heart beating nearly so well, my dear." "Mother, look how big your eyes are." And the wolf answered, "It's to see you all the better, my dear." "Mother, look how large your nails are." And the wolf answered, "Without them, I couldn't reach out and touch you, my dear." "Mother, look how big your teeth are." And the wolf ate Little Red Riding Hood. The hunter, he arrived at the house and saw what the wolf had done. He swore to kill the wolf for eating the poor girl. But wolves really are strong.